Strong start. Good evening and welcome back to the penultimate live episode of Red Tinted Glasses that has covered you this pre-season. The only Aberdeen podcast to bring you real life live episodes of all things covering Aberdeen FC. So Callum is in a different location. COVID has meant you're staying in Kirkcaldy. Not that you have it. We should clarify. You're staying safe. So apologies that there is some Wi-Fi issues throughout this episode, but we do appreciate the support that you guys have shown to our lives so far this season. Callum, how's life down in Kirkcaldy for you?
It's fine. Well, I escaped straight after on the weekend and got down here. Next day, Neil tested positive. Was planning to go back up last night to Aberdeen, which would have been fine. I could have just avoided my dad in the house. Would have been great. I was on the bus. Had to get it from Dunfermline. Got to Perth. Just left Perth. Thankfully, the bus was going to stop in Dundee because my mum messaged me just after we left Perth saying, I've just tested positive. So I was like, well, I better avoid the family home for a while. So thankfully, Caitlin picked me up from Dundee. So I'm staying here for now, staying safe. But I can't believe how many run-ins I've had with this bloody thing.
I know, dedication to the cause on trying to get to Parkhead for Sunday by staying with Caitlin and avoiding going home. So well done on that. It's an action-packed show that we've got tonight for those of you tuning in with us live, or if you are catching up later, whether that be on Friday, either here on YouTube or via the audio platforms. We hope you are all well. As I said, action-packed show coming up. We have the Raith review. Callum, you were there on Sunday as Aberdeen completed the Premier Sports shows with 4 wins, undefeated and no goals conceded. We'll look ahead to the Premiership opener against Celtic this weekend. Fantasy, of course, we've got our Fantasy League app running back again, so we'll give details on that. And of course, transfers. Callum, your favourite subject to talk about. There's been a lot happening today, well, certainly on the outgoings, and it was a busy week with me heading over to Aviemore for some birthday celebrations, you obviously being in Kirkcaldy, but maybe timed nicely with all the incomings and outgoings that we're convening this Thursday evening to discuss what has been happening.
Exactly, yeah. It meant we delayed this, and they've got a little bit of transfer business out of the way. So absolutely fine. Looking forward to discussing that. I just love signings, incomings, outgoings. It's all happening, and I'm all for it.
Absolutely. So we'll start back on Sunday as the Dons completed their Premier Sports group stage with 4 wins. The 4 wins most fans expected to get. And again, it was probably with relative ease, Callum, I think it's fair to say, in terms of dispatching Raith 3-0, although it wasn't with some concern because Raith did, as we probably expected, did cause us some problems.
Absolutely. They definitely caused us more problems in this game. We got tested a little bit more, which was obviously to be expected. A step up in opposition, and they are a decent championship side. We looked a little bit scary at times at the back. We afforded a few chances, Jamie Gullen especially getting a couple. But we sort of seemed to deal with it okay after a little bit of lapse of concentration at times. And we got through it, and another clean sheet, another bit of confidence we can take, I suppose, from these games and heading into the new season. We need to remember how to win games, and thankfully we've managed to do that with 4 clean sheets. So I think very, very professional all round throughout the Premier Sports Cup group stage games, as we saw some other teams in the Premiership not quite being so professional and saying that the Cup's not suited to the Premiership sides or whatever, as if they're not playing part-time teams and they're all professional.
Yeah, not like Annan Athletic to go on and top their group, which of course was the team that we were drawn against to play. Our first game awaits the Dons as we'll head to Galabank at the end of August. More on that. When the fixture comes around, we've managed to secure an Annan Athletic fan to come on to help us preview the game because it's not safe to say that our knowledge on all things Annan is definitely not up there, Callum.
Absolutely not. I had a little look at their squad. I recognised Johnston, the one that used to play for Kilmarnock for a bit. And other than that, not many more. So thankfully we've secured that, and we'll get an education whilst we're at it as well as providing knowledge for all. So there we
Yes,
are.
exactly, because we know how knowledgeable we can or can't be, I guess, on this show. But back to the game on Sunday, it was the one change for the Aberdeen team. And I suppose we've got a few other things to discuss because it wasn't the only change ahead of the game on Sunday. Bojan Miovski came in to make his Aberdeen debut in place of Christian Ramirez. And it wasn't just his position Bojan was taking, it was the number. Miovski has taken the number 9 jersey for the season ahead. Christian now taking number 99. Is it just a number, Callum, or is it a bit disrespectful to Christian to remove the jersey he has worn already this season?
I thought it was very, very weird that the fact that they changed it after he's already worn it in a competitive competition. I thought that was pretty bizarre, especially since apparently the Miovski thing with giving him number 9 was part of the negotiation and him signing. They already knew that he was signing before we played these games, so why did they not just change it beforehand? But regardless, I thought it was a little bit weird. It was especially given, towards the back end of last season, maybe some of Goodwin's man management had sort of come into question with the way he was telling people to go. But I'll trust him. And it was a weird one. And I just love squad numbers. I take them very, very seriously. I blame Football Manager for that. And it just unsettled me a little bit. But we thought at the time it was a pretty big deal. I think there was a lot of commotion, maybe is the word you could use to describe all of it at the time. But it fizzled out pretty quickly. And maybe a marketing ploy. Ramirez 99. How often do you get teams in Britain wearing number 99?
At least we won't have any issues with people already having Ramirez 9 on the back of their shirt, because obviously the kit's not yet available for release, although that will be next week. So they've avoided a bit of an issue there. But, there was people maybe questioning the man management from Jim Goodwin on the decision to remove the number. Obviously, then counter argument was, well, Christian was a bit disrespectful to the Aberdeen side at the end of last season, downing tools when, we were in that battle towards the end of the season. Take it how you will, but if the difference between signing Bojan Miovski was giving him the number 9 jersey or another, then, from what we've seen so far, I think give him that number 9 jersey.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, it does seem bizarre that that's like one of the selling points. You'll get the number 9 jersey, but I suppose maybe that gives him some confidence in a way that he's how he's going to be seen at the team, how he's going to fit in. But yeah, everyone moved on pretty quickly. It's all good. Christian Ramirez 99, CR 99, kind of like it. A bit of a problem with all of his songs, but if you just change, he wears number 9, he wears 99 instead of number 9, and we'll be fine. We'll work it out.
I'm glad you've solved the problem to that chant. And obviously, it gave us the ideal title for this show as well. We've got 99 problems. So thank you very much to Jim Goodwin for that decision, and Christian Ramirez for wanting to pick 99 as well. The other pre-match changes, I suppose, Callum, we saw was the Aberdeen team warming up in front of the Red Shed, a change from seasons gone by, where we will now warm up in front of the Red Shed as opposed to the Richard Donald stand. Jim Goodwin saying that is a decision being made to, not kind of inspires the wrong word, but, get the crowd at that end of the stadium going pre-match, and then also giving the team an opportunity to gain more appreciation as they go back down the tunnel, obviously, from the main stand side. I think that's actually quite a clever move, especially for the bigger games, which tend to generate more of an atmosphere than the so-called lesser games. I think that will definitely work in our favour.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's about sort of small advantages. Often these things can kind of make the difference. It might seem like, it's just where they're warming up or whatever, but if you can sort of build that interaction, get the crowd going a little bit more, get the Red Shed in the groove, then it'll be. I think it could pay off, and I especially like the idea of Jim Goodwin being able to now get in the ear of the officials even more. I think that'll probably give us maybe slightly more of an advantage, because doesn't seem like a man who will mince his words very often. So I look forward to that. And Yeah, I think it's smart, and it's sort of more adding Goodwin's stamp. It's definitely throughout his tenure here, it's going to be his way or the highway.
Yeah, of course, you are alluding to the fact that Aberdeen have swapped dugouts starting on Sunday and going forward this season. Aberdeen will now be in the Merkland side dugout as opposed to the Richard Donaldson side dugout, as I'm naming them. I don't know what their official title is. But it's just for clarity. Jim Goodwin stating that, as you've said there, Callum, he wants to be closer to the official because he felt last season that the away manager or away bench opposition had more influence on the main stand linesman. So he wants to be able to be closer to that. And I think we've seen from, maybe his man management style, certainly so far during his time in Aberdeen, he doesn't, as you said, doesn't mince his words, doesn't hold back in how he feels. So God help the linesman coming forward this season.
They're going to have a torrid time on that side. They're going to not love that change as much as we do. But yeah, I think it could prove to be beneficial. I don't know whether we might see Jim Goodwin getting sent to the stands a little bit more, but it'll be entertaining regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. And Paul Donaldson, good to have you along with us tonight on the channel. Regular commenter as well. He's saying, showing his age here, but remember when the squad numbers weren't really a thing. Just numbers 1 to 11 were used for the starting players in every match. Imagine if we went back to those simple times, Callums. Because God, how times have changed since then.
That'd be very, very confusing. I would not be a fan of that at all. Squad numbers mean a lot to me. Stupidly, and like a stupid amount.
Well, on to the game itself, and Bojan Miovski having a very immediate impact in his full competitive Aberdeen debut. Of course, as we said a few weeks back when the team were over in Spain, because that's where they were for their pre-season training camp, if you didn't know, he made an immediate impact, not only winning the penalty, Callum, but with some great conviction, putting it into the top corner. That's one way of getting up and running. Although, as I said, he did grab that goal over in Spain. So second goal in his Aberdeen career, but first official competitive goal.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that was a big way to announce your arrival. First of all, won the pen. I initially thought miles offside, but when seen the replay, no, onside. So that's absolutely fine, and did well to win it. And then, goodness me, did he whack that one away. That was... He hit it with conviction, to say the least. Took it straight through the boots, straight through those laces, straight through the ball, and it was top
straight
corner.
Through the net.
Yeah, almost. I mean, what a way to announce yourself, and looked like he absolutely loved it as well. And also afterwards, and when Aberdeen tweeted out or whatever, put on the social media the wee clip of the video, seeing how happy Ramadani was as well for it. I absolutely loved it.
Well, that's given me an excuse to go back and watch the clip again because I didn't spot that. But I love how much you're spotting how happy Ramadani seems to be in these penalties, in the clips that they're showing. I think I don't know if Miovski was just slow in getting back or it was lazy defending by Stanton. But one thing I seemed to notice in the first half was Miovski's movement. He seemed to really kind of hold the shoulder of the last defender. There was a time he was called offside when he was sent clean through, and he was flagged offside. But the replays on Premier Sports showed that he was definitely onside, because I'd managed to find a stream for the game after Rory decided to do his best Martin Boyle impression. So I stayed back and watched the game from the comfort of home, much to Rory's enjoyment as well. And thankfully there was some entertainment during the game. That opening spell did see Aberdeen kind of look to impose themselves, and it was good to see us use that home advantage coming out and especially getting a goal early in a game that we did think we could experience some problems in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It settled the nerves very well. I thought, Raith will come up and they've got a bit about themselves. Obviously, they had confidence from our result last year as well. So it was good to get off to a flyer. It was good for Bojan Miovski to get off the mark immediately, and positives all round. And then we set up in some slack defending, so that was fun.
Yeah. Well, that was I suppose maybe the gripe, if you want, on the game on Sunday was we almost started to ease up, and certainly the first time our defense has been tested on more than one occasion constantly. I felt Raith got a lot of success down our right side. We've seen the positives in Jaden Richardson this season going forward, getting good delivery into the box. But I felt Raith almost exploited him defensively on Sunday, as most of their best opportunities came down that way. Zanata, a player we highlighted early on in last week's episode, was a player that did seem to have a lot of joy, but unlike us in front of goal so far this season, well, maybe apart from a few Christian Ramirez misses, which we'll come on to, Raith weren't exactly clinical when the chances came about, but certainly warnings for us. And I think Jim Goodwin did heed that ahead of Sunday's opener against Celtic.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I hope they've spent basically all week working on that defensive shape and the rotations and things like that. But there was warning signs. Jamie Gullen sort of prodded one wide, and then he also got another chance, which forced a good save, to be fair, from Callum Roberts. But there was definitely some warning signs, and then thankfully we did eventually fire back. And boy, did we fire back with that strike from McCrory. But we're going to need to be better against Celtic, against most Premiership teams in the league, because they will punish us. But Sunday is a massive, massive test to see how this defence actually does. It's all well and good keeping clean sheets against sort of lower league opposition. And yes, I got carried away with it regardless. But we'll get a reality check on Sunday, perhaps.
Not like you to get carried away at all, is it? And
Sure.
we've got our predictions to come later on in the episode, so God knows how carried away you're going to get when it comes to that. What did you make of Callum Roberts at the weekend? Obviously, you said he pulled off one good save. There was a couple of corners where he maybe didn't cover himself in glory. Keith and a few others, Kobe Henderson, when mentioned in the State of Scottish Football group chat, that they didn't really feel Keller commanded his area very well. I think maybe if you want to compare it to the likes of Joe Lewis, who likes to shout at defenders, organise his defence, they didn't kind of feel there was that sense from Keller Roos, but I guess we'll get the real sense of his capabilities this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I think there definitely was a couple of times. I know the corner you're referring to where he sort of held off a Raith player and then it went over the both of their heads rather than him collecting the ball, which was a bit unnerving. It'll be interesting to see once he develops sort of more understanding with his defence, once he maybe gets a bit more confidence back as well after probably not a great end to his Derby career, all things considered. It'll be interesting. I don't know if it'll come more with more understanding with the two defenders in front of him, but I think the jury's still out on Kellerus to say the least.
Yeah, and that's a good point there. Skolsker makes another regular in our comments during our live, so good to have you with us as well. The Celtic game won't show how our defence is because we have to change it in probably our midfield, as we'll have to move McCrory. Good point. We will come on to that later on in this episode. So, but again, I suppose, and something hadn't really considered, that it probably won't be the real test for our defence. We'll get that maybe the likes of St Mirren, Motherwell, the weeks coming afterwards, because Celtic's a different kettle of fish with the attacking power that they possess, and as Skolsker says, we're going to have to change that team. But any nerves that maybe we did have from the attacking play that Raith were causing us problems with, you always get that nervy sense when games are stuck at 1-0, was settled by that rocket from Ross McCrory, who's in some fine form just now. That's 3 in a row, and could have been 4 had that goal at Peterhead not been disallowed. And I suppose on the back of that comment there, it's going to be disappointing to see him potentially moved into defence when he has been so productive in our midfield.
I mean, yeah, definitely. He seems to be sort of relishing being a bit higher up the park in that sort of box-to-box midfielder role, if you will. He's been, as you say, amongst the goals. I'm sure, obviously, he'll still do a fantastic job against Celtic, regardless, because he will deliver that sort of 7, 8 out of 10, no matter where he is on the park. But it is frustrating. It will be good to see when we do have our settled back four, and he is in the midfield, how he does going into the actual league season against better opposition and things like that. Because if he can carry on the way he's going, then I will be a very, very happy man. But that strike was unbelievable, and it sort of contrasts with the one where he sort of sclaffed it wide against Stirling Albion, and then to go and whack that one in off the bar. It was beautiful, and I watched Vinny afterwards, after everyone sort of ran over and congratulated him right in front of us. Vinny just stood there and I gave him an applause. And I thought that was probably deserving.
Yeah, well, I suppose he tried his luck against Peterhead and it was cracked off the bar. This time he managed to kiss the underside as it went into the back of the net. And I suppose kind of reminiscent of that Carrie Arneson strike at Tannadice when it kisses the underside, bounces down and then back into the roof of the net. There's something aesthetically pleasing about that type of goal. And then, 2-0 at halftime, you think, good, we're on course here. 4 wins, then the next stage is, keep a clean sheet, which we go on to do. But we do add a further goal is Johnny Hayes, who was maybe lucky in the first half. It was a fair studs up challenge that was just a free kick awarded. I know Michael Stewart in the Premier Sports commentary thought Hayes was very lucky not to see a card out of that. Made it 3-0. And there was a tweet, and apologies, I can't remember who it was, said he must have known Macedonian to shout, leave it to Miovski, to beat him to the ball before racing through and finishing very well to seal the points for Aberdeen.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes when Johnny Hayes goes bearing down on goal, and even in his, now with all the experience he's gathered, I'm still like, I have no idea where this is going to go, because he'll either slot away cool, calm, composed, or it'll be like not just the keeper will pull off a save or something. He'll do something mental. But thankfully, he was very cool, calm, composed. It was a lovely finish. And credit to Bojan Miovski, but also to Vicente for the ball through. And also in the celebration, been analysing that when Johnny Hayes scored. Johnny Hayes sort of points to his ear and is like, yes, come on, you listened, basically, kind of thing. So I'm not quite sure how they managed to communicate, given Johnny's accent and Bojan just moving over. But, it worked out regardless. But
I suppose not even just Bojan, just anyone in general might have a hard time of understanding Johnny Hayes in fairness. But, obviously 3-0, there was a good defensive block from Anthony Stewart towards the end of the game as well. So we saw how much the clean sheet did mean to the defence. But as Parky 1977 says in the comment, that CR99 miss at the end. A couple of bad misses, Callum. You want to discuss them?
Yeah, he looks like he was sort of trying too hard, almost, Christian Ramirez. The header at the back post and the goalkeeper tipped it over the bar. I thought nothing more he could have done there. That was a fantastic save. But that one at the end, it was selfish, and he sort of had his head down. It was just sort of tunnel vision, and then the ball sort of got stuck at his feet and just scoops it. I suppose you always hear that's what kind of strikers like, but I would have loved for him to just roll it across for an easy tap in for Luis Lopez to get him off the mark. But frustrating, and it sort of summed up Christian Ramirez's day a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if that was him trying to prove a point, make a mark ahead of this weekend, but it's a group stage where he could have probably hit double figures had he buried some of the chances. Remember the open goal he missed against Dumbarton, obviously the goal that he, as you want to say, rightly was disallowed. Well, I suppose there's no rightly or wrongly, it was right against Dumbarton. I just loved how good a team goal that was. It was disappointing to see it chalked off, but safe progression through to the next round. As we said earlier, we've been drawn away to Annan Athletic, that tied to be played in the midweek of the 31st of August, 3 or 4 days before we then travel to Dingwall to face Ross County. So going from one end of the country to the other in a short space of time. But can't really have any complaints with that draw talk, Callum, can we?
Not at all. I think for those who do get there, whilst it's a long trip, I think it would probably be a worthwhile one, because it's not the ground you're going to get to go to very often. Obviously, they did, progress through very convincingly as well. But look at it on paper, League Two opposition, Premiership side. Given how we've played against lower league opposition so far this season, well, we should be comfortable. It is Aberdeen, but it's favourable when you consider, some of the other teams in there could have drawn a Premiership side, but thankfully we ended up getting ourselves seeded in a favourable draw for once.
Yeah, for once, and of course, not us playing League Two opposition away from home. Undoubtedly not attractive enough for Premier Sports, because there's only 2 teams that are attractive enough for them to show. But that's fine. I'm sure there'll be a clamour for tickets, as you say, for the appeal of ticking our ground off the list that not many of us will ever get the chance to go to outside of cup competitions. So, and one that I'm sure will pique a lot of interest when that comes around. Before we preview the weekend's trip to Celtic, we will look at the incomings and outgoings that have taken place at Tawdry over the last few days, because there has been a lot. It's your favourite time of the show, Callum. You love this segment. Jim Goodwin on Sky Sports News was previewing part of the season, and he said that there was a kind of takeaway from one of his comments saying that he wasn't going to stand in the way of players that are in search for more first team minutes. People may be suggesting that that was aimed at the likes of David Bates, Christian Ramirez, given the fact that Miovski started the game on Sunday. And certainly for David Bates, he's not seen any competitive minutes, neither is Connor McLennan. And David Bates is currently in Poland for a medical ahead of a proposed move to Legia Warsaw in a rumoured deal to be worth £200,000 plus add-ons, plus a percentage sell-on clause. A spectacular bit of business, and as Erin Grieve replied to us on Twitter, for an excellent defender in David Bates, in case there's any Legia fans tuning into this episode.
I mean, quite the deal. Stephen Gunn, whoever's responsible, well done. Also, David Bates' agent. I think it's, in all seriousness, I think it's a good move all round. We get a decent bit of money. I mean, I don't know if that sell-on clause will ever become any use, but given its history of getting decent moves, you never know. But we pocket some good money. David Bates probably on a pretty big contract too. Goes out the door and hopefully can have a fresh start at Legia Warsaw. All the best to him. I don't really have any qualms. I thought he looked a lot better when he was on the right-hand side and not playing with Declan Gallagher, but he's not going to play ahead of Stewart, Scales, or even McCrory. So,
no, he's not. And obviously, if he wants the first team football, then good luck to him in that sense. I think, your report and any other reports from the Brecon pre-season game filled me with absolute dread of him potentially coming into the team as cover. But is cover what we now need on the left side of our defence, as Kieran Ngwenya this afternoon joined Raith Rovers in a season-long loan deal? Another good move to the Championship for one of our defenders this season as they go and search for more development minutes. And this morning, a few weeks later than originally planned, Mason Hancock joined Arbroath in a season-long loan. With Colin Hamilton suspended for the first 2 games of the Championship season, Arbroath were in need of a starting left-back, and obviously view Mason Hancock as the best person for the job. Good to see him getting an opportunity that will see him get regular game time. Probably good development working under Dick Campbell, as we spoke about previously when this move came about. But Callum, with Mason out of contract at the end of the season, I note there was no option to recall in either Arbroath or Aberdeen's statements on Mason Hancock signing. But you had a kind of qualm about this one on the timing of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very, very good move for Mason, first of all. I think he can probably go on and prove himself and probably go on to earn a new deal if these performances in the Premier Sports Cup group stages are anything to go by. I thought he looked very, very accomplished going forward. Still, obviously, only 19, and he will learn a lot one way or another under Dick Campbell. But I thought maybe we should have kept him for that Celtic game, because we'll have to change the centre-backs, because Ross McCrory will probably presumably go in there with Liam Scales dropping out. And then, it looks like we're going to be bringing in Coulson, who's ready to play, or McKenzie, who's just fit. And, Coulson doesn't quite know the squad so much. And Jack McKenzie is, made of glass, unfortunately. So I just felt maybe Mason Hancock could have stayed in that position. And then after the Celtic game, we then, go and let him go out on loan. But maybe, Arbroath not willing to hang about. But that was my one gripe with the move. I think it is a good move at a very good level for him. And likewise, Kieran Ngwenya as well. Both left backs going on loan to the Championship. Evan Towler also in the Championship. I'm sure it'll be good for them for when they come up and face each other. They want to sort of get the best of each other as well. So that'll probably push each other on even more too.
Yeah, absolutely. Keith made a good point to me today when because he had the exact same kind of argument as you about the fact that, the timing about it, should we have kept this until Monday, after that Celtic game? But obviously are both in desperate need of a left back. You could have maybe argued, could we have pushed for them to take Kieran Ngwenya instead, considering he hasn't had any minutes for the club. But obviously there was that agreement, as we said, organised a few weeks ago. So it's obviously a player that they've identified and they're keen on. But maybe something that the club see this season is both Kieran and Mason going out getting first team football at their respective loan clubs, to then come back and challenge Jack McKenzie for that left back slot next season. Obviously, as you said, Hayden Coulson, I'm not sure. The ABZ guys are currently recording a mini pod, so I'm sure they'll have the correct pronunciation from their correspondent in there, like we got with the pronunciation of Duke, not Duck. So if you want to know how to say it properly, we'll maybe have to tune in so we get it right. But do you see that as being maybe the thinking behind these two loan deals, that with a more view to next season, seeing these two get more minutes for the first team? Obviously, Mason has looked decent from what we've seen of him so far. I personally thought he maybe still has some work defensively to do, but obviously we haven't seen too much of Kieran Ngwenya anyway.
Well, I think Mason will learn a lot defensively under Dick Campbell. He'll teach him how to play, I'm sure. I think it's two good moves for them, sort of try to pave their way up Tawdry. It's a very good level for the pair of them. They're both very young. It's good to go and play, against men, not just in the development games. And it's a really good level in the Championship too. For two decent sides, you'll probably be looking at making those playoffs this season as well. So, they both got a chance to go and lay down a marker ahead of coming back next summer. Mason Hancock obviously got that deal to earn as well, so they'll both have points to prove. Absolutely, and Ngwenya will be thinking, well, that should have been me playing in those Premier Cup games as well. So he's got that as well to use as fuel. So I think it is two very, very good moves, and it's exciting that they're going out and getting that experience too, and hopefully they'll come back better for it.
Yeah, and I noticed a few people saying, disappointed to see Mason going out on loan. How's that going to affect his development? Well, Neil Simpson was part of the pathways or development manager. I can't remember what his official title is, but if he's saying that it's good enough for these players, then I'm going to trust his judgment that this is the right move for them. But I suppose certainly for Kieran, Raith were looking for defenders after the retirement of Christophe Berra, which I'm surprised you haven't brought up yet.
Yes. Before I rejoice in Christophe Berra's retirement, I watched Kieran Ngwenya's interview with Raith after he signed, and they mentioned in it, the interviewer mentioned that he was a player that Ian Murray had his eye on for a few weeks. So clearly he's wanted there as well, which is very, very good. But yes, they will be after defenders after Christophe Berra faced Bojan Miovski for an hour, and he decided, that's enough for me. I'm just sad the ball boy wasn't there to give him a wee send off. But we've had some good memories with Christophe, the shite Scott McKenna. Oh, we've had some great times there. But after seeing him on Sunday, it's definitely time to call it a day.
I know. 41 appearances for the national team as well. Quite remarkable. But as you said, an hour of Bojan Miovski was enough, and that is the end of Christophe Berra's career. As we've touched on already, there has been some incomings. We'll go on the one we've mentioned already, considering we've lost two left backs in the space of about 12 hours today. Hayden Coulson joined the team from Middlesbrough on loan. 24-year-old who's previously worked with Jim Goodwin, spending some time at St Mirren in the 2018 season. He did actually come up against Aberdeen when we beat them 4-0 in the League Cup. Played 11 times for St Mirren that season. Last season, he spent time on loan at both Peterborough United and Ipswich Town, but only played 14 times across the course of last season. So to kind of go on that point that you made about the timing on Mason Hancock, I've got a bit of fitness concern around the new signing already, ahead of this weekend's game when it's likely that he'll be the starting left back, unless Jack McKenzie's fitting off, but again, Jack's not played competitively this season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably more concerned about Jack McKenzie's fitness rather than Hayden Coulson. Hayden Coulson in his interview said he has done, a pre-season. I don't think they'll came back, quite as early as us, but at least if it's a few weeks, he'll be in a decent spot. Obviously, without that match fitness, probably too. But I presume he's going to come in to start. I mean, he'll definitely be up for that. He's got an expiring contract at Middlesbrough at the end of the season. He sees this probably as a chance to, whether it's give those down the road a second thoughts to whether he's going to fit back in down there, or a chance to prove himself up here, maybe on a contract up here or elsewhere. I think we do obviously need a cover at that left back. I mean, even if we hadn't loaned out Hancock and Ngwenya and we'd gone into the season with those two, and then sort of McKenzie, three sort of young, inexperienced fullbacks, with McKenzie's fitness questionable and things like that, I think it's a good move. And the way he's described himself and things like that, he sounds like an attacking fullback. Likes playing wing back as well. Said he has fast feet. So hopefully we'll see all these things come to fruition. But hopefully, not only that, he can actually defend. That would be wonderful.
Yeah. Do you think, though, with the potential departure of Bates and obviously the two loan signings, loan departures, sorry, I should say, do you think we will be looking at more cover on that left side of defence, possibly even another loan coming in, or a cheap option to buy?
I don't think the left side. I think they might be settled on that left-hand side now with sort of Coulson, McKenzie, then you've got Hayes and Scales. You can also sort of play there.
I suppose, though, like if you're using Hayes as cover, we've seen him look really good in that left mid position so far. Certainly attacking position. Do we have any decent cover on that left wing just now?
I don't know. I think maybe we will bring in. Certainly at left back, I think there's enough options. We need the four of them. We'll be all right there. On the left side, then you can have Vinny coming off the left-hand side. You've got, Callum Roberts. I'm sure he is left-footed, so he could perhaps fill over there. Matty Kennedy can come off the left as well. And Conor McLennan's still here, so who knows what's going to happen with him. Marley Watkins too. I think we're okay there. Centre-back does concern me a little bit because, you'll have to take McCrory out of midfield. And right now we are a little bit light in centre midfield. I would like to see maybe another centre-back come in if David Bates does go. Also right back, a little bit of a concern because likewise, McCrory is basically the only cover option we have there. So if anything, I'm looking on the opposite side for additions.
Yeah, interesting. And Handy Doodle do say in the comment, Vinny can't play on the left, and I'd probably tend to agree. I wasn't overly. I think he'll be better this season in behind the striker. He's looked good this season in that forward role, being kind of almost free roaming. I think we want to keep him in that best position because when he was kind of on that left-hand side against Peterhead, they doubled up against him and kept him very quiet. So I'd rather us be able to see the best of him in that kind of the free option role. But look, we've got options just now, and let's see if we can add that quality that Jim Goodwin speaks about.
Yes, true. And hopefully that quality is Callum Roberts. Signed to Geordie, so at least I'm happy about that. Obviously, he came in from Notts County, paid, what is it, 75,000 with potential add-ons, the rumoured fee?
Possibly up to worth £100,000 then. Well, hopefully this signing with connections to Newcastle can't be worse than the last signing.
Yes.
Newcastle. So, especially when he's coming here being dubbed the Geordie Messi as well. That's a lot of hype to put on the shoulders of Callum Roberts, as you said, 25-year-old coming in from Notts County, 16 goals in just 37 games last season for the Magpies. Pretty impressive going, and it's, we've spoken about all pre-season, Callum. We need that extra winger. We need that extra creative flair in this team to provide that cover. And it looks like we might just have that. And, we caught up with the Notts County Talk Live guys again. Unfortunately, due to our busy schedules, we couldn't record a piece on that over camera. But we did send them a few questions, which I think you've got there. And they came back with some good responses on them. So I'll let you ask the first question or state the first question.
Absolutely. We asked them, obviously they've had a good experience seeing him in the last couple of seasons. He's performed very well for them. We asked them what Aberdeen fans can expect from Roberts.
Yeah, the very obvious question to ask. And their response was that he will give us loads of attacking threat, be a constant menace all game to the fullbacks. He likes to cut in and get his shot away. And not to expect too much from him defensively. So if he is going to be playing on that right-hand side, which we maybe do have, well, I certainly have concerns over Jaden Richardson with him liking to bomb forward and maybe be a bit slow at getting back. It could leave us that little bit exposed for poor Anthony Stewart that has looked a bit outpaced at times in the 10-yard dash. So slight concern, but a player that can be a menace to fullbacks is exactly what we want to hear, because that's certainly what we've been lacking in recent months.
Oh yeah, well, absolutely. He's described himself and he likes carrying the ball, running at players, which sounds just exciting to me, and that's exactly what you want. You want to be entertained, but we also asked what his favourite position was.
Yeah, and that is on the wing or behind the strikers. So I suppose another option to play off the strikers if we want to move Vinny to that left or right. But we didn't see the best of him unless he was out wide running at defender. So I think by all accounts from Notts County fans, if we want to be seeing the best from him, he needs to be on that wing.
Absolutely. And it's on that wing that he earned the nickname the Geordie Messi. And I mean, I think that is high expectations, but I do wonder if he will live up to that expectation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
He scored 16 goals last season, obviously coming off that left-hand side. We wondered if he was clinical, because, sometimes we have sort of lacked that. Because can he also sort of not only be clinical, but can he, provide assists as well? Because, I mean, we've lacked that last season too.
Yeah, he can rip teams apart, often has to be doubled up on. Obviously, I mentioned that about Bazawin after maybe what teams have seen from him in pre-season. But in terms of Roberts, the Notts County guys say that isn't often enough to stop him. For those of you that follow us on Twitter at @RTG_podcast, we tweeted the Notts County Talk guys' favourite Callum Roberts goal. And we saw that where he was almost had three defenders in and around him, still had the skill, the centre of gravity to evade those defenders, drive to the byline, and then using his left foot, cut the ball into the opposite bottom corner of the net. A quite exquisite finish after grabbing an assist also from the corner in that game against league topping Barrow at the time. And then there was another Notts County fan that also tweeted us his favourite goal. It was great seeing a little mini highlight reel from Notts County fans in our mentions on Monday. And it was a free kick that he took from the right-hand side into the opposite side of the net. So maybe a bit of a free kick specialist as well. I think I said to Jonathan Main, maybe that first kind of player that looks creative, has that touch since Madison. Maybe Christie again, maybe a bit of high expectation to put on his shoulders, but certainly from what we've seen in the highlights there. To go back to what the Notts County Talk Live guys said, he has got that brilliant close control and does resemble Messi with his low centre of gravity, hence the nickname. But he was their most clinical player last season, pulled them out of tricky situations a few times. A lot of his goals can be from the edge of the area, bending into the corner. And I suppose, Callum, that's exactly what we want to hear, because a lot of the times, certainly I felt from once Ryan Hedges left, we missed that player that could pull us out that tricky situation. And it also kind of goes on the point that Jim Goodwin said, when last season we didn't have those players we could call upon to influence the game. Maybe we found one here in Callum Roberts.
Absolutely hope so. And obviously last season we saw big struggles of when our strikers weren't scoring, we weren't scoring. So it's good to know that we do have a player, potentially, obviously with the level that he played at under consideration too, that can pop up with goals from other areas of the park. And it will be interesting to see how that partnership with Jaden Richardson further develops. What did the Notts County guys say?
Yeah, so they said that was a brilliant partnership for them last season. Their overlaps were something to watch out for, and 75% of their attacks tended to come down that right-hand side last season. So something for us to maybe look forward to, although I'm sure Matty Kennedy might have something to say about the prospect of Callum Roberts playing on that right-hand side.
It'll be very, very interesting, but it's very good to have that competition now. So
Absolutely.
not a bad problem to have. And mentioned defensive weaknesses. Was there any other, or was it mainly just the defensive weaknesses that they highlighted?
So we asked about the weaknesses. As you said, they said in terms of his game, he can hold on the ball for a bit too long, and isn't a fan of tracking back. Although he did get better in the latter stages of last season. The other major weakness in their mind was his injury record. Not like Aberdeen to sign injured players with a history of injury, but there we go. He missed the vast majority of the 2021 season with complications from long COVID, which kept giving him muscles injuries. It looked at one point, though, he'd never get back playing. He played the whole of last season, having injections before every game so he could play. And in their biggest game, the playoff, the injection unfortunately numbed his whole leg, forcing him off after 20 minutes. Saying that, scoring 16 goals when you're nowhere near fitness is quite frightening. If you can get back to full fitness, you've got an incredible player. So, you think about the money that we've spent on him, the fact that he wasn't fully fit last season and still contributed 16 goals. Lewis Ferguson was our top goal scorer with that amount last season, and you have to think half of them were penalties. So, they said it's frightening if he gets back to full fitness. Well, that's very exciting.
Absolutely. I mean, it's probably frustrating that we couldn't have had him in earlier, perhaps when Jaden Richardson arrived to get him that full pre-season with the squad. But regardless, he also said in his interview that he has had a little bit of pre-season with Notts County, so he should be in good shape regardless, despite, obviously not up to the speed of our guys. But it'll be very, very interesting. And what I'm excited about, he was highly thought of once upon a time at Newcastle United before things didn't quite work out. He did go on to appear for them. I think he scored as well. Maybe even on his debut in a cup, but it'll be interesting. Obviously, as well as Hayden Coulson, he's got experience somewhat of the league as well. I've spent time at Kilmarnock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So again, a player that's got used to Scottish football or has some experience, as you say. Kaiser, again, another regular on our lives. Thanks for tuning in and thanks for contributing in the comments as well. It looks a good player, but we'll need to see. Fifth tier of England isn't a great standard. Obviously, we've got Jaden Richardson in as well. As I said, I've got my own doubts around him so far this season, but I think certainly, we've spoke about maybe his fitness issues, but certainly the clips and the skills that we've seen in his highlight reels looks very encouraging. But let's see if he can do it for us. And I think if he can keep that fitness levels up by all accounts, certainly for the money that we've spent. The last episode we were speaking about, was it Shaden Morris from Fleetwood, and there was £300,000, I think was the rumoured figure. We've not spent nowhere near that for a player who sounds a lot more encouraging. So maybe again another little gem that Darren Mowbray's managed to unearth here.
Let's hope so. I'm certainly excited to see what he can do. I don't know if he'll go in straight against Celtic, but I'm sure he will get his chance, and it'll be interesting. It'll be very, very interesting. I'm sure he'll probably end up getting kicked up in the air quite a lot, as is often the case when players are a little bit skilled come up to Scotland. But I'm excited. I'm very, very excited.
And at least I suppose with him, if he comes into the starting 11, which we'll come on to in a minute, it gives opposition defenders another attacking player to worry about in our team, other than just Vinny or just Johnny Hayes, as we've maybe seen so far in the early parts of this season. Because I think, again, at times last season, pre-Vinny coming in, it was, well, we'll just double up on Ryan Hedges. And when Ryan Hedges was quiet, Aberdeen were quiet. So now to have the options potentially on both sides is very encouraging going into the start of the season.
Definitely. And also, I mean, if you look at the wingers we currently have on the books, I mean, Matty Kennedy, right-footed, Vicente, right-footed, both of them sort of prefer kind of cutting in or even playing in that 10 role. And then Johnny Hayes, whenever he's on the right, I mean, you see the cross he tried to put on his right foot the other day? It was bloody awful. So it's good that, he doesn't quite like playing on that right-hand side so much, but Callum Roberts, he says that is that sort of his preferred role, though he is obviously left-footed as well. He he can cut in on that side. So it offers something a little bit different as well in terms of further wide options that offer a little bit different dimensions. So I think it's a good acquisition, and for that fee as well, I can't find too many complaints other than sort of that we need to find out how he'll do with a sort of step up, which English fans maybe won't agree that it's a step up, but regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose it'll be interesting to see how many teams he makes in terms of fantasy teams. As of course we mentioned at the top of the show, we have the Red Tinted Glasses Fantasy League running again this season. Details on screen now for those of you currently tuning in to our live on YouTube, or if you're watching, we'll put a link into the audio description with the fantasy code. So for those of you catching up via audio, the current contest code is AS1DZM. The letters are all lowercase, so that is AS1DZM to join the Red Tinted Glasses Fantasy Football Scotland League. We have prizes currently sorted for that as well. We will be looking to see if Ian Brown can defend his title from last season, or if Callum can.
I bloody hope not, is all I was going to say. Sorry, and I forgot I was on mute.
Yeah, if you can run him close after your, was it third or fourth place finish last season? You were going well for a time.
I can't remember. I'm trying to blank it out and move on to the next one.
And obviously, with being live on Thursday, Motherwell are currently in Europa League Conference or whatever, somehow European competition they managed to get into last season, but are currently 1-0 down, thanks to those of you in the comments informing us of that information, because that does have an effect on Aberdeen, as it means if Motherwell do crash out of Europe, they will travel to Pittodrie on Saturday the 13th of August, as opposed to that game having to be moved to the Sunday. And I think we can all agree that Saturday 3 p.m. is a lot more enjoyable than Sunday 3 p.m. So on the Sligo.
Sligo, is it? Sligo? Regardless, I don't know how they made it to Europe, but yeah, at least we'll be playing on Saturday at 3 o'clock. That's always welcome.
Yeah, exactly. We won't be playing on Saturday at 3 o'clock this weekend, though, Callum. It is Sunday, 4:30, as the Dons kick off their Premiership season away to Celtic. It is Flag Day for the champions. I'm sure Jim Goodwin is absolutely relishing the prospect of going to Parkhead to show what his charges can do this season. Is playing Celtic on opening day the perfect time to play them, though, Callum?
Is it? I don't know. I mean, on one side of you've got maybe they're not quite up to speed yet. We can cause an early upset. They might know what to expect from us. But another time, it's like, oh, I'm buzzing for the new season. What have we got? Parkhead away to the champions. Brilliant. I mean, they've kept Jota, all that lot. No, it's a decent chance. I think maybe to lay down a mark. I think we'll learn a lot, even if we do go out there and lose, about sort of the application of the players and how we'll do going forward. I just hope that we don't get spanked and absolutely all confidence is gone that we've built up.
Yeah, well, DT98 Films is buzzing for Sunday. I have to say, I'm scared that I'm getting your levels of optimism ahead of the game on Sunday, but also very wary of the attacking threats that Celtic pose. And I think also wary of the fact of how untested our defence really remains to a quality attack this season. Also plays on the back of my mind, and we're going to have to change our defence, and as Can't Be Bothered mentioned earlier on during this episode, is that Liam Scales will be a massive miss on Sunday. What do you expect, Callum, our back four will line up as? Do you expect it to be Ross McCrory? Obviously that's what we've kind of tended to do in the games against Stirling, Raith, make those changes, and that's seen Ross slot in alongside Anthony Stewart at centre-back. I take it's not the game to play Jack Milne from the start as centre-back instead.
Well, I mean, that'll either make or break the kid, but I think a little bit too early for him. I think it will be Ross McCrory, probably on the left side of the fence. I think that's mainly what we've seen in pre-season games. I think we've seen that for a reason, so that they can develop somewhat of an understanding. between themselves at centre-back, which is a shame to break up McCrory and Ramadani because they've been looking fantastic alongside each other. But I think that is how it'll go. Then obviously Richardson on the right, and I'm not sure if it'll be Coulson or McKenzie. I've got a feeling that they might lean towards Hayden Coulson, to be honest. But I don't know what I would prefer. What would you prefer?
I'm not sure. And interesting, can't be bothered saying Coulson as a centre back. I don't know if we'll see him as a centre back because then who are you playing as left back? That then potentially moves Johnny Hayes into left back.
Yeah,
And
I think
then
that's too much messing about.
And it's a big change to your midfield if you're moving someone that you've signed as a left back into there. But I suppose that's another conundrum not many people will have considered. I think you've got to go with McCrory and Stewart. You've got that experience of Ross McCrory in playing there last season, and who can. I'm not saying he's going to help Anthony Stewart, but Ross McCrory will know what to expect from that Celtic team. So maybe they can communicate better, and then they can both help equally the fullbacks that we go. And I think I'm more intent to agree with you that Coulson, whatever his name's going to be, will get the nod at left back, and Jaden Richardson will continue at right back. Into midfield though, then with Ross McCrory likely to drop back into defence, what does that mean for the centre midfield partnership? Obviously, we've seen Yilba Ramadani and Ross McCrory flourish that partnership so far. Willie Miller confirming on Sportsound at the weekend that young Connor Barron faces 6 to 8 weeks out with a cruciate injury. So that's quite disappointing for Connor, but also disappointing for Jim Goodwin, who would have probably looked at slotting Connor back into that midfield. So do we now turn to Dante Polvara to plug that hole?
I think we do. We don't have much other choice, in all honesty. I can definitely see that being the case, and I'm okay with it. To be fair, in the small flashes that we've seen of Dante Polvara, he's looked okay. He's a bruiser, in fairness, and that might be what we need. A big physical presence in that midfield, and hopefully him and Ramadani will do enough kicking up in the air to get us through the game. I think I prefer that sort of to be the case, and I think that probably will be what we see, because right now no alternative. It's just annoying that unfortunately Barron did pick up that little knock, because I would have loved it for him to have just slotted in, and that would be nice and easy. But alas, no, here we are.
Yeah, but yeah, I know as Scotia said as well, first game of the league, and we're already speaking about having to alter a winning lineup. It's not really a position that we as fans, or I'm sure Jim Goodwin, is really, excited by. But as Boris Johnson would say, them's the breaks. I guess with the signing of Liam Scales and the loan signing, you not like that political patter tonight, no?
That was rogue, to say the least. Are you going to sign off with Hasta La Vista, baby?
Well, now that you put it in my head, I might. But other position in midfield, with the signing of the Geordie Messi, is Matty Kennedy's starting position under threat? I suppose we could be worse. We could be Hibs and have signed a 36-year-old midfielder, Nathan McGeady, who's now out for 12 weeks. So that's not all too bad.
Yeah, I know. That is, they've had a nightmare with that one. Missed 2 penalties, got injured for 12 weeks. Great stuff. But
funny though.
I think it is funny. I think they should keep those sort of 3 behind the striker as is for now. I think they've all done enough equally throughout the Premier Sports games to sort of earn their right to start the season. I think Mike Kennedy's been very impressive, probably shocked me the most. Johnny Hayes looked very unselfish in his plays, and still sort of the absolute workhorse that he's been in sort of his whole career. So, and Vicente obviously can make things happen too. I think it'd be unfair on one of them to drop out. And then, of course, we still have that Callum Roberts option to come off the bench, or, maybe going into the game the next weekend. I don't know. I think I'd like to keep those 3 together. I think they've all done enough to keep their place.
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes back to some of the comments that are coming in about having to change the lineup, the fact that it's maybe showing that we're still short at centre half or midfield as well, is that we don't want to be making wholesale changes for this game and then have to change them all back when, Liam Scales can play against St Mirren a week later. So I tend to agree. I think those players have earned their right by, taking the Premier Sports group stage seriously, doing a professional job, not getting ourselves knocked out like other Premiership teams have done. And do deserve that shot in the opening game on Sunday. And then we do have that quality and maybe unknown prospects coming off the bench to hopefully, if we're still in the game when they come on, maybe give us a chance of picking up 3 points or, getting a point, which would be, anything I think we take from this weekend is a huge bonus, a huge platform for us to build the season on.
Yeah, absolutely. I do agree. I think they deserve a chance. And then the fact we do have options now, I think maybe Jim Gruden would still like another, sort of creative midfielder, perhaps to add further options. I think we're in a decent enough spot to have 9 through the door before the start of this league season's pretty good. Regardless of who starts, you've got sort of another winger that's starter quality to come off the bench. Marley Watkins, Duke, Ramirez. I mean, Conor McLennan's still there as well. So there's options. I think we're in a decent spot, and I'm talking myself into optimism again, and I don't like it.
Yeah, not like you. So we'll take a look at what we think the starting 11 will be then for Sunday's game. So we're going to say Kelleroos to starting goals.
Yep, that's what I mean.
Yeah, left back, Hayden Coulson, centre backs, Ross McCrory and Anthony Stewart, with a right back of Jaden Richardson.
Yeah, I think it makes the most sense to try and make as little changes as possible. Well, unfortunately, we have to make 2.
Yeah. That then sees us into midfield. You think it will be Hayes, Ramadani, Polvara, and Matty Kennedy, I think is fair to say, was what we assume the midfield to be, and then Bazoun probably playing in a more advanced role in that midfield or in behind the striker.
Yep, absolutely, and they'll probably be supporting Bojan Miovski, I would think.
Yeah, and I would think so too. Obviously, then having the option of Christian Ramirez to come off the bench alongside the likes of Callum Roberts as well. So again, reverting back to that quality, but hopefully if Ramirez is relied on off the bench, he does have his shooting boots with him. As that will be most helpful.
Yeah, I really hope. I hope everyone's been doing defensive work other than him. Actually, this week he just needs to work on one-on-one finishing.
Well, we do need to be defensively sound, but we also do need to be clinical, as you said. So people working on their finishing. I think we say that every time it comes to these Celtic Rangers previews. We spoke about, is this a good time to play Celtic or not? They've had 6 friendlies as a pre-season. They've not had the distraction like ourselves this season, although I know they've got group stage football to look forward to and we don't. They haven't had any qualifiers to play this pre-season, so they've had an uninterrupted pre-season campaign that saw them play 6 friendlies, 3 wins, 3 draws, scoring 2 goals in every pre-season friendly. Although so have we. We've also scored 2 in every pre-season game and competitive game as well. Although people maybe want to say that closed door friendly against St Johnstone, see if that counts. Well, I don't think the club are counting it. But 2 players that have found themselves in good form for the Hoops is David Turnbull and Dazen Maeda, both being in the goals. Now, we saw what Maeda could do last season on that left wing, like a Duracell bunny up and down. That for me is the concern, the way that they can change players like Giacomakis, Jota, Maeda against our defence that, as I said, has been largely untested. So I can see you already. Some of that optimism draining as I listed those attacking threats.
Abada, Kyogo. Oh God,
I haven't even touched on them.
Yeah, I mean, this will be a real test for our defence that we've had to make changes to, and it's not a winning defence. But hopefully they'll I don't know, not be so sharp, having just played pre-season games. That's what I'm clinging on to. They'll be caught up in Flag Day, etc. I don't know. It's scary the amount of options they have, but thankfully, we're starting to get some ourselves. And hope it'll probably be on that defence and also the industrious midfielders and probably Polvara and Ramadani to keep us in this game for as long as possible. So we do get a chance to see what our attacking players can do against slightly better opposition. But listing all those players has sapped every little bit of confidence I've had now, and I'm not happy about it whatsoever. I'm sure to come Sunday, I'll be full of beans and ready for it, though.
Oh, absolutely. Once those happy bottles are consumed, then things quickly change. But Robbie Hanratty, as part of his job with the Daily Record, I've spoken to him earlier, and he's had a chance to watch Celtic in pre-season, and he said that they have looked good going forward, but at times still defensively suspect. Joe Hart still not entirely comfortable with playing it out from the back, especially under pressure. So that's maybe something that Jim Goodwin and Aberdeen can look to exploit. And obviously the centre back pairing that they have in Cameron Carter-Vickers and Stephen Welsh is maybe still new and still learning. Obviously the signing of Moritz Jens is maybe someone that could make their debut at the weekend. So maybe defensively, and I think that was picked up in the comments as well, that yes, Celtic do have a good attack, but defensively they're still not the most sound. And I think I'll be surprised if this game ends 0-0 at the weekend. I'm expecting goals. I'm just hoping that we're on the score sheet as well.
Absolutely, I'm expecting a score. Well, I'm not expecting a score draw. Hoping for a score draw because it's the best result in football. But regardless, I think they could be a little bit shaky defensively, regardless whether Moritz Jens comes in or not. They've not been convincing. Joe Hart again. What if you press him and make sure he doesn't have plenty of time on the ball? Then sometimes he can be a bit wayward with it as well. It'll be a very, very interesting one. I don't think either team are going to be particularly defensively sound, which is a little bit of a concern for us because of how much we shipped easy goals last season. But it'll be a very, very interesting one. I think regardless, we will learn a lot. I just hope that even if we do go down in defeat, that there is positives there about how they apply themselves, the professionalism they show, and hopefully we can nick a couple of goals. We've got a decent chance.
Yeah, well, as Daz Sutherland said at the earlier in the episode, Miovski for the Golden Boot this season. Well, hopefully he can get his campaign for the Golden Boot underway. Sunday would be the perfect tonic for that. Give us something, the 700 of us that are heading down to Parkhead, something to cheer about behind that pillar. Hopefully if he does bag on Sunday, we actually are able to see the action happening, of course.
Oh, I've had an absolute nightmare there before. I hope I get my seat this time. I've been there before and my seat has been in the segregation. The 2 bits of tape, which is the worst segregation in the world. And then my seat is in the middle of it. And another time I went and it was like something like, it was like 37, 38, 39, and then it was like 84 was the next seat. Worst away end ever.
Yeah, it is. But it's the first game of the season. The cinch is back and I can't wait. Even if I need a couple of extra happy bottles to ease the pain that we may have to endure. But hopefully when we're speaking next week, we are still largely positive, or there is positives to take away, and we're not starting that negative tone too quickly this season. But what we will end this episode on today, Callum, is of course our predictions for the season ahead. We will I say we, I mean I will keep a note of them in a safe place. Probably have to do an Excel document to make sure I definitely keep it in a safe place. But we'll write down our predictions for the season and compare at the end of the season to how accurate we are, and see, for those of you that think we do speak a lot of nonsense, how accurate we can be. So the first prediction is going to be on our top goal scorer, Callum. Who have you gone for that?
I think you're probably going to have gone for the same person. With him taking the number 9 shirt, I'm going to go for Bojan Miovski. Started off very, very well. He looks classy. When you tweeted that clips, the clips of how he was playing in MTK Budapest, regardless of the level, some of the technique he showed, I'm going with Bojan.
Yeah, so have I. And Skokes are saying Ramirez for top scorer. I think unless we see both of them on the pitch at the same time, which has not certainly been a tactic that Jim Goodwin has deployed so far, I think Miovski is going to get more minutes. I really like his movement. I know Skokes said earlier in the comments about Ramirez being more of a penalty box striker, and the fact that he was having to come deep for the ball rather than the tactic of that we seem to be deploying with Miovski playing off of the last defender. And I think from what I saw in that game against Raith, I really liked his movement off the ball as well. It looked very lively, and I think get him in the right position, we'll see him bag a lot of goals. And I think as well, it will also depend on who's taking penalties if they're both on the pitch as well.
Yeah, that is certainly very true. But if it is Bojan Miovski, then he carries on putting them away the way he did against Raith, then he might be all right.
He might be. Next one, we're going to predict who gets the most assists. Not one you often hear about, but just a little funny one to put in. So who do you think will be our asset for assisting the most goals this season?
I was in a little bit of two minds. This is one of the ones where I thought, I don't know who I'm going to go with here. I might surprise you. I don't know. I have elected to go with Johnny Hayes.
Interesting.
I think Bissawin will be the most productive winger in terms of goals contributed, but I think he will score maybe more than he'll assist. But I think Johnny Hayes, given how unselfish he's been, he looks like he's relishing being further up the park again. I'm going with Johnny.
A few people in the comments tending to agree as well. Not often people agree with your opinions, but I'm going to go with the option that Jeff Moran has put in and back our little muscle boy to be the most assists this season. I think in a new advanced role for him this season, I think he will produce the goods for us in terms of more assists. I think Johnny Hayes is an excellent shout, certainly based on what we've seen this season already from him. It just depends on whether or not he is forced further back the pitch if injury suspensions affect that. Or if Matty Kennedy, Callum Roberts continue to impress and we're left with a decision to try and fit both of them in, does Johnny Hayes' place be affected? Oh, funny, that's like me and Jeff are on the same wavelength. Something he's put in the comments, can't see Johnny starting all the games.
It is something I considered as well, but I don't know. I just feel like he's just loving being further forward at the park again. Like the work rate he puts in, like Jim Goodwin knows absolutely love that. So that's why I decided to go with Johnny Hayes. Another, I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting. But if it wasn't going to be Johnny Hayes, I was going to go with the little muscle boy.
Yeah. Who do you think will be the most booked Aberdeen player this season?
This is a toughie because I think there's a couple in there that will be up there. I think I'm going to go with Ross McCrory, and that's over Yoba Ramadani, just because I think Yoba Ramadani will probably be a little bit more smart with it a little bit with his sort of professional fouls, tactical fouls. Whereas Ross McCrory sometimes just goes storming in with no thought or care. So I'm going to go with Ross McCrory to be the most booked player this season.
Interesting. I've gone for Ramadani. As I think new to the league, we saw a couple of the maybe niggly fouls that he liked to break up the play tactically. So I've gone for Ramadani. Although with the change in dugouts, I do like this shout from Kaiser saying Jim Goodwin. I think that's very possible that we do see him lined up as someone that receives a lot of yellow cards. But I'll go with Ramadani. Where, Callum, do you see us finishing the Premiership season?
I might be going with Heart over Head for this one, but I am going to say we're going to finish third. And although Hearts are looking, they were obviously miles ahead of everyone else in third last season. They will have group stage football. I don't know how they're going to cope with balancing that and the league and the cups. Dundee United have, recruited quite well over summer, but I'm just excited, and I think if we can get another one or two in ahead of this season, well, not ahead of the season, but before the end of the window, we could be on for it.
I'm so glad your optimism has returned and you've gone straight in there. I can't wait till Robert Borthwick's back on the podcast and you're having to explain why you've gone for third, as we're hopefully not struggling. But I can just see that coming back to bite you, or the comments around Hearts. I'll say what I did in my 4-4-2 preview for the season ahead. I'd be delighted just to make the top 6 this season based on last season. And I will go for that we'll finish 4th. I think Hearts will just have enough to pip us. I do think that depending on their European run, interesting to see how that affects them. Dundee United they have maybe recruited well, but will that work for them this season? I'm not sure. We've not really seen them in competitive action yet this season, and I think we saw Motherwell, Ross County, Livingston. I know Ross County made it into the top 6 at our expense last season. I think that there's a couple of positions up there for grabs in the top 6. Obviously, us and Hibs missed out last season. I think we should definitely be getting into that top 6. And then for me, I think we should be looking at least 4th as a minimum finishing place. So I'll say 4th, but if we finish 3rd, I'll be absolutely delighted as well.
You won't be delighted when I am so smug that I predicted it.
There is also that to consider. We already did our Premier Sports Cup predictions a few weeks back before the group stages commenced. We both hoped, obviously, we would get to the final, but we're expecting a semi-final placing in that cup competition. What about the Scottish Cup, Callum? Where are you hoping to see Aberdeen reach? I think obviously we all want to reach the final, but
I'm thinking, I'm hoping semi-final, but I think quarter-final, because I think teams will take the Scottish Cup a little bit more seriously. I don't know, we might come up against one of the big boys in there. Screw it, I'm going semi-final again. I'm going with heart over head.
I'm changing your mind.
2 semi-finals and 3rd, and that's me. I'm deciding that. That's what's happening.
Okay, you've gone from not winning the lot to just coming close there.
After last season, will Buddy take it?
Well, Paul Donaldson saying we'll reach at least one cup semi-final, and well, I'd absolutely take that. Who doesn't love a semi? And I've said that we'll also get to the Scottish Cup semi-finals as well.
Who are misses?
Well, a good cup run would definitely be an improvement on last season as well, especially if league doesn't go to plan. One thing I saw on Twitter, and I know he's watching the live now, Beastie had a thing on his Twitter account at BeastieRL on who the best 3 players will be this season, or most exciting players will be this season. Have you had a chance to think on who the most exciting 3 players will be this season for us?
I'd first of all like to congratulate. I saw in the comments he got a new job moving up in the world, so congratulations, Beastie. A massive shout out to you. But for this season, I'm gonna go. I think Vinny will be absolutely up there. I mentioned that I think he'll maybe have the most goal contributions, but I think it'll be a fine balance between his goals and assists maybe as well. I'm going to go Vinny. Bojan, I think he just looks classy and everything looks so much better on that left foot. I'm excited about him. So those 2. And although I said, Johnny Hayes for the most assists, it's a real tough one. I'm going to go Yilber just for, I think, the way he applies himself in that midfield. He looks neat and tidy as well. And with the way he plays, a sort of, I suppose, mentioned Hearts earlier, a similar sort of Cammy Devlin. Can do the dirty work, can play a little bit too. Those 3 are going to be my 3, I think. And I'm not including, I think Roberts harsh to be included, but I'm not going to. And likewise, Johnny. What about yourself?
Yeah. I've also gone for Bojan. I think once you sign a striker, you're always excited to see how well they did. See Christian Ramirez last year. I was humming and haying on Vinny, but I've gone for Liam Scales. I know we're not going to see him in games against Celtic, but I think I've been really impressed by him. Certainly his distribution that we've seen at the back, and just a remarkable improvement on what we had to witness last season. I'm going to go with him over Anthony Stewart just based on what I've seen so far, and I've gone for Callum Roberts as the exciting player just based on what we've seen in terms of highlight reel. And prospect of getting that new exciting winger coming in. But yeah, a bit like yourself, maybe the likes of Hayes, McCrory, Vicente, unlucky not to be included in that top three. But we'll see how that develops. And then after talking to Joe from the Benfica After 90 podcast, something we're going to include going forward this season, and providing we remember to do it each episode, is our memorable moments from the game that we've been at the weekend, whether that is a moment from the game or a moment pre-match. There might be a few more memorable moments pre-match in some games, but we'll be looking to discuss the memorable moment from the game, and whether that is a match-winning tackle, a match-winning goal, or a match-saving tackle, block. We'll pick one each from the game for something for discussion point there. So something to look forward to in the new season.
Absolutely. I'd like to just an unofficial one. Use this moment to say, for the Raith game, lasagna pie, pie of the month. They need to become a permanent fixture at the games. Pataudry people, if you're listening. So that's what I'm using for my moment of the match. The lasagna pie. Make it happen, people. Thank you.
There we go. Some positive pie news, positive food news after all the bad press. McCrory goal is the memorable moment for Parkhead 1977. I would say Bojan's penalty was my memorable moment, because debut 5 minutes in, and just the conviction to put it into the top corner, that is a memorable way to start your Aberdeen career. And let's be honest, McCrory's goal is probably going to win goal of the season or something anyway, so it'll get recognition in itself.
Probably, but you're both wrong. Lasagna pie.
And on that positive food news, we'll see how good the food is this weekend. Let's be honest, probably no one will buy it anyway. Thank you to all of you that have tuned into this episode and interacted through the comments. It is much appreciated. It's great to see your opinions and how they often agree, disagree, or contrast to those that we hold. Football is all about opinions, strong opinions, weak opinions. We've all got them. We all agree, disagree on them, but that's what makes doing these shows and football so enjoyable as well. Until next week, when we are back discussing the opening weekend of the season and looking forward to the opening home game of the season, thanks very much for tuning in to another episode of Red Tinted Glasses.
Bye.